Hello everyone. Hello. If I am audible to you, just put a message in this chat, no? Am I audible? Good evening, Dr. Ankit. Just a moment. I don't know why my computer has become so slow today. I'll wait for 2 more minutes. Probably a few more people may join. Fine. So Dr. Kirtan, Dr. Madan, and everyone who has joined the webinar, thanks. Thanks for joining, and let us go into the topic. In this topic, which is CT Brain Made Easy. This app designed specially for the young doctors like you, who need to know the basics. CT scan of brain cannot be taught in a single day. It requires a lot of expertise. It requires a lot of patience and persistence. And if I try to cover the entire basics also in a single day, it becomes very clumsy and you'll not be able to comprehend anything. So probably CT Brain, I will take in next 3 or 4 sessions. In each session, I will try to clear 1 or 2 or 3 topics which are very important to learn. So in this topic today, I'm basically going to answer three questions. First one, by the end of this topic, you should be able to answer whether there is a skull fracture or not. Second question, you will have to identify things which are hypodense, which are isodense, and which are hyperdense. Third one, you will have to identify the basic pathologies like an infarct, bleed, air, that is pneumocephalus, and some of the basic things, cerebral edema and all these things. So in this session, we will touch only these 3 things. In 1 hour, we will not be able to make more than this. So let us start. And one thing which I request you, every person who join the chat, try to be active. You cannot learn anything without trying to answer. So after every question, that believe me, more than what I'm trying to explain you, you will have lot more to you'll have number of things to answer by yourself. As you keep answering, the things will become easier and easier for you, and you will have the confidence and also understand, and will give me feedback whether what I'm trying to tell you has entered into your brain or not. Okay, fine. So I'm Dr. Kalyan. I'm head of Department of Neurosurgery, Medicare Hospitals, Hyderabad. So whenever you see a CT brain, first thing which you need to realize is, first thing which you have to answer is which one is right side, which one is the left side. So the important point is the thing which is present on your right is left on the scan. So the thing which is present on the left is right for the scan. This orientation is reverse in 90% of the cases. So in this scan, so which one is the left one? This is the left one and this is the right one. So by this is the convention followed in number of centers, but some centers reverse it. They put left on this side, right on that side. So in every scan, you'll identify the labeling. Either they put the word right and left, or they put the letter R and L, or they put the letters R and L. So you'll have to identify whether you are thinking of right side or the left side. Okay, this is the most important one. So as soon as you see the scan, you'll have to identify which orientation they are following. Look for the letters, say the right and the left. If they are not written, look for individual letters. They either write R and L, or they mention only one side, R on one side and leave the left one. If nothing is written, then take for granted that your right is left of the patient and your left is right of the patient. Am I clear? It's reverse. So the first point is orientation. Next one. Whenever you get a scan, there are two types of windows given in this scan. One is known as the bone window, and the other one is known as the brain window. So what is the difference between bone window and the brain window? Fine. So can you identify both these are CT brains, but there's a difference. In this one, the entire brain is seen just as a gray material. Okay, this entire brain is uniformly seen as gray matter. You can't identify the structures of the brain. This window is highlighted, taken specifically to look for the bone. In this particular window, the bone is very clearly seen. So this is known as the bone window. Whereas when you see this one, along with the bone, even the brain parenchyma is clearly seen. See, you can identify the sulci, you can identify the ventricles, which is, this is all the temporal lobe and all the brain parenchyma, white and gray matter. So you will have to look. So when you see a scan, the first thing which you have answered is what is right, what is left. Second thing, you should consciously look for where are the bone windows, where are the brain windows. In the bone window, you will look for bone. So as the name says, for any pathology involving the bone, you will look for the bone windows. And for any pathology involving the brain, you will look for the brain windows. It's so obvious. But if you try to look for a brain pathology in the bone windows, you will miss it. Similarly, if you look for a bone pathology in the brain window, there is a high chance that you can miss it. So always look for brain pathology, bone pathologies in the bone window. So these two things are the basic things which you look for when you look for a scan. So we have identified what is right, what is left. సంతోష్ సెమినార్ తీసుకుంటానండి ఒక 1 hour లో ఫోన్ చేయాలా వెబినార్ లో ఉన్నా నేనే నీకు ఫోన్ చేస్తాను ఓకే ఫైన్ సో next important one. I'm sure, pretty sure all of you would have, at least number of you would have attended my basics anatomy of the brain. I know the anatomy classes were boring, but I have taken that one because until you understand the anatomy, the clinical aspects become very difficult. So let us revise your anatomy. This is the particular anatomy which is important for understanding the CT brain. So for every question, I will give you 15 seconds for you to answer. So basically what I want to tell is these lines which are being shown are the suture lines. Okay, this line number blue line, which is horizontally located, is known as the coronal suture. The horizontally located line in the anterior aspect is known as the coronal suture. Similar line which is present posteriorly is known as the lambdoid suture. Okay, the line which is vertically present, and which this is the view of the skull from the top. You are seeing the skull from the top. Okay, and this line which divides the skull into right and left of is known as the sagittal suture. So along the sagittal plane, we have the sagittal suture. Along the coronal plane, anteriorly we have the coronal suture. Posteriorly we have the lambdoid suture. And on either side, in the just above the ear, we have the squamosal suture. So you will have to remember these four sutures. This one is known as metopic suture, which is not present in the adults. It's present between the frontal lobes, so it's not very important. So I'm not going into it. So just identify these four sutures. So this is the coronal suture. This is the sagittal suture. This is the lambdoid suture, and this one is the squamosal suture. So what does the coronal suture do? It separates the frontal bone from the parietal bone. What does the sagittal suture do? It separates both the parietal bones. And what does the lambdoid suture do? It separates the parietal bone from the occipital bone. And what does the squamosal suture do? It separates the parietal bone from the temporal bone. I'm going to ask you again, so try to understand this one. If you have any doubts, you can ask me. I will stop over here. So this is the lateral view of this skull. So this midline suture, which I have not shown on here, was the sagittal suture, which divides into right and left arms. So this one is in coronal plane. So this one is the coronal suture, which separates the frontal bone from the parietal bone. This green one is the lambdoid suture, which separates the parietal bone from the occipital bone. And this suture, the red one, is the squamosal suture, which separates the parietal bone from the temporal bone. This forms the basic of you understanding the CT of the brain. So next, you will answer the questions. After every question, I will give you 10 seconds time. In 10 seconds, try to answer the question. Okay. So what are bones number 1, 2, 3, and 4? Label them, answer them in the chat. Answer 1, what is that bone? Answer 2, what is that bone? Answer 3, what is that bone? And answer 4, what is that bone? I will wait for 10 seconds. Yeah, answer 1, 2, 3, 4. All the 4. I will wait for you. Yeah, Dr. Ankit, he was right. And every one of you, I want every one of you to answer. I won't hesitate waiting for you even if it becomes slow. But these are the basic things which everyone, it should be on your fingertips. Even if you ask you in sleep, you should be able to answer. It should be clear. I'll wait for 2 more seconds, 5 more seconds. Yeah. Few more people have not answered. I'm waiting for them. Every one of you are right. So these were the 4 bones which are understood. Okay, so first one is frontal, second one is parietal, third one is occipital, and fourth one is the temporal. Now, label it. What are the sutures A, B, C, and D? Now label the sutures. Label A, B, C, and D. Again, I will wait for 10 seconds. And let me see who is going to answer it first now. A coronal, B sagittal. So Dr. Ankit and Dr. Human Mechanic, whoever may be, so they have answered this first. But I want every one of you to answer. These are really basics, but these are very important for you to learn this scan. So I won't mind waiting for every one of you to answer. I want the 100% of you to answer it right. C is squamosal and D is lambda. Right. Every one of you have answered right. So similar thing. Again, you'll have to identify all the four. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Fayaz. It's a great privilege for me to have you here. Thank you very much. And now, so similar one, try to identify the lateral view. What are the bones 1, 2, 3, and 4? Yeah, Dr. Ashish has answered it right. Temporal bone, 4 is temporal, right? I'm waiting for others to answer. Try to be as quick as possible because the real clinical things are later on. If we spend a lot of time in learning the anatomy, you will not enjoy it actually. Yeah, 5 is zygomatic, right? Next one. Now, label the sutures. A, B, and C. There are only 3 things to label. So I think you will be able to label it fast. A, B, and C. There are only 3 sutures. I think so. You should not take time. Frontal, parietal, and occipital. No, Dr. Fayaz, I'm asking you to label the sutures. Coronal, squamosal, and lambda. Right. Fine. So A is coronal, B is squamosal, and C is lambdoid. Now, so the first clinical question, which is a target today, is to identify fracture and the suture. There are so many differences which I have elaborated over here, but practically, how do you identify? So I'm telling you. So these are the sutures. Can you see when you look at a suture, the margins are zagged? They're not a straight line. The margins are zigzag. They're just like a zip. You have things getting interconnected into each other. How many of you are able to identify that zigzagness of the suture? Whoever has appreciated on this picture that zigzag interlocking nature of this one, try to say yes. How many of you have identified it? The zigzag. Most important thing is, why did I tell you to identify the sutures? Why was I trying to teach you sutures? Because whenever you say fracture in the skull, the first differential diagnosis is whether you are able to differentiate fracture from a suture or not. Sutures appear as fractures. So you should be able to differentiate this is a suture, this is a fracture. So sutures have a zigzag margin. Second one, let's concentrate away from the suture. Every bone has a cortical bone. So this is all the cortical bone, which is white in color. In between, we have the bone marrow. This gray color is the bone marrow. So when you see a suture line, we will find a zigzag, and either side you can see a cortical hyperdensity. So we have a suture which is zigzag line. On either side we have the cortical bone. So these two things you will have to look into. Okay, am I clear? Yeah, this is the sagittal suture as Dr. Fayaz has told. So how to differentiate from suture from a fracture? First one, suture line will have zigzag margins. Second one, on either side of the suture line, you can find dense cortical bone. Third one, sutures always lie in the anatomical side. So if there's a line exactly in the midline, most probably that is sagittal suture and not a coronal suture and not a fracture. If there is a doubt, suppose you are thinking there's a fracture at the level of the coronal suture. You can just compare with the opposite side. So you'll have if there's a similar thing symmetrical on both the sides, it's most probably suture. But if it's present only on one side, it's most probably fracture. And over the fracture side, you can find some swelling of the soft tissue. So let's see. So now are you able to say what Dr. Fayaz has told? So this one is a sagittal suture. Similar, this one is this is an axial cut. So you have taken axial cut. So in the midline, you will see sagittal suture in the front, sagittal suture in the back. So what is this suture? This is the coronal suture. This is coronal suture on the left. This is the coronal suture on the right. Okay. Now we'll see. Now this one. So let me say this. I'm saying as A. This I'm labeling as B. This I'm labeling as C. So is A fracture or a suture? Is B a fracture or a suture? A and B. Do you find the zigzag margins? So A and B are sutures or fractures? I want you to answer. Yeah, because they are straight, they are linear, and they're not zigzag. Now let us see. So answer me what is A. Answer what is B. Yeah. As everyone says, A and B in the previous thing were fractures. So try to answer what are A and B and this one. So let me change the label. I will make it C. So answer what is C, what is D, so that I will not have a confusion. So what is C and what is D? I'm waiting for your answers. What is C and what is D? Dr. Fayaz, can you try to look at once again? This is C. Okay, this is D. So C is a fracture and D is a suture. Fine. Dr. Faz, C is a suture. Dr. Faz, can you try to revise? C is a suture. No. See, when you look at D, can you see the zigzag ends? It is not a straight line. There actually zigzag thing is very clearly seen. Whereas when you look for C, C is a straight line. You don't have any zigzag ends. And D, when you look at D over here, you can find similar thing on the opposite side. So if there is something symmetric on both the sides, it's most probably a suture line. So C is a fracture and D is a suture line. Am I clear? So if it's symmetrically present on either side and it's a zigzag, it's most probably suture line. Yeah, fine. So now everyone is sure. So am I clear? So this was a fracture, this one was a suture line. And now can you say what is a marked arrow? What is a blue arrow? This is 3D reconstruction of this skull. Whenever the CT scan technician finds the fracture, he usually tries to give a 3D picture. Yeah. So what is the blue one and what is the red one? So what is the blue line? What is the red line? So blue line is a fracture And so what is the red one? Answer as red R followed by. Red one is the sagittal suture. Fine. So probably now, so I will label it as E and F. So that what is E and what is F? What is E and what is F? I'm trying to give you more and more examples so that it becomes easier for you to identify more and more in your real life. So what is E and what is F? I'm waiting for your answers. E is a fracture. It's a comminutive fracture, and more specifically, it's a depressed comminutive fracture. One fragment is going into the brain. So it's a depressed comminutive fracture. And F is a suture line. Fine. Actually, F is a lambdoid suture. Can you see similar thing on the opposite side? We have two things on either side. Fine. So I think now we are able to say, yeah, F. Maybe it's not clear, but you can see you have a similar thing on the opposite side. So which is zigzag. So any zigzag one is a suture. Fine. So probably I'm pretty sure now any one of you will be able to identify the fracture. This when you correlate with the clinical findings. Suppose you have a doubt whether suture line or not. You examine the patient. Yeah, Dr. Fayaz is saying they are not similar. This is because when they take a CT scan, the slight obliquity of the head, then they will not be exactly similar. So it depends on how symmetrical they take the cut. So probably I'm very sure that by this time you will be able to identify the fractures. Can you say until now, what were the windows I have shown you? I have shown you brain windows or bone windows. I was looking for bone pathology. Fracture is a bone pathology. So we will have to look for brain windows and bone windows. All these windows were brain windows and bone windows. They're all bone windows. You cannot identify the brain over here. Brain appears very grayish thing. You can't identify anything. So when I was looking for fractures, I was looking in the bone windows. Now let's go to the brain windows. Normal structures in the brain, I will explain you step by step. If I try to show you the entire normal structures of the brain in the CT scan, again you will get bored and you will not be able to remember anything. So I'm going step by step. So second step is what do you mean by hyperdense? What do I mean by isodense, and what do I mean by hypodense? So anything which is easily seen on an X-ray or the CT scan is hyperdense. By means hyperdense, anything which is hyperdense on a CT scan appears white. The same applies for X-ray also. So what is the color of a bone in an X-ray? Suppose I take an X-ray pelvis or X-ray lumbosacral spine. What is the color of the bone? Is it white or black? Bone appears white or black in an X-ray lumbosacral spine. White. Bone is hyperdense. All the hyperdense structures, they're white in an CT scan. They're also white in a X-ray. Suppose we take, what should I say? I take air or fat. Air or fat. Does it appear white or black in an X-ray? Bone appears white in both the bone window and also the brain window. It appears white in both. Yeah, yeah. HU units nearly 1000. We will come to HU units later on. So, what is the color of fat in an X-ray lumbosacral spine? So, Dr. Ashwini said black. Anyone else? What is the color of fat in an X-ray lumbosacral spine? Black. So, fat is hypodense and hypodense structures are black. Right. So, the same thing applies for the CT scan. All the hyperdense structures are white in CT scan and also in the X-ray. Hypodense structures are black in the CT scan and the X-ray. So when I look at the scan, this is bone. So this structure is bone, bone of the skull. So bone appears white. What is this structure in the center? Can anyone guess? What is the structure which I have shown with an arrow? The red arrow which I have pointed out. Yeah. Now try to answer what is the structure which I have labeled with the red arrow. They are the ventricles. So ventricles contain CSF, which is water kind structure. So the ventricles appear black in color. So the ventricles are hypodense. Am I clear? So bone is hyperdense, appears white in color. Ventricles contain CSF, which is hypodense, and so it is black in color. And what is isodense? Brain is said to be isodense. I say isodense to white matter, isodense to gray matter. So this gray structure is known as isodensity. So gray matter, the brain which appears gray is said to be isodense. So now you are able to identify what do I mean by hyperdensity, what I mean by isodense. Isodense is gray color, which is similar in intensity to either white matter or gray matter. Again, when we go more, the gray matter is slightly hypodense to white matter. Then we make it very clear whether it's isodense to gray matter or isodense to white matter. Basically, you can, for the basic, for a beginner, for starting, because this is basics of brain. So here you remember that anything which is similar in color to brain is isodense. So this gray matter which is similar to brain is isodense. So this all structures, brain which I'm showing here, is the isodense one. So isodense is gray in color. You can see over here, and that is similar to brain. Anything which is whiter than brain is hyperdense. Anything which is darker than brain is the hypodense. Now, what causes hyperdensity? So whenever you see something in the brain which is hyperdense, you should ask yourself, why is this hyperdense? Anything which is hyperdense in the brain can be because of only two things, either because of calcium or iron. So now tell me, what structure in the brain contains calcium? What structure in the entire your skull and brain contains calcium? I'm waiting for your answers. If you don't know, just say no. Skull, obviously, bone. So calcium is present in bone. So the bone appears hyperdense. Yeah. Pineal gland is hyperdense when it contains calcification. Choroid plexus is hyperdense when it contains calcification. So whenever there is a calcification, they become hyperdense. If there is no calcification, they will not be hyperdense. So it's not choroid plexus basically which is hyperdense, which is the calcium within the choroid plexus which makes it hyperdense. So what contains iron? What contains iron? So where is iron present within the Brain. Blood. So iron is present in blood. So blood appears hyperdense. And tumors. Some tumors are hyperdense because they either contain calcium or iron or more number of cells. We call them hypercellular. When the cells are tightly packed into a tumor, it may appear hyperdense. So whenever you see hyperdensity, you think only of these three things: either bone because of calcium, blood because of iron, a tumor which may either contain calcium or hyperdensity, hypercellular tumor. Similarly, so what causes hypodensity? Hypodense structure, it may contain water. So what contains water? Water is present in the form of cerebral edema or CSF. So either edema or CSF will cause hypodensity. Hypodensity may be because of air. So when there is air in the brain, we call the pneumocephalus. So again, pneumocephalus is hypodense. Third one, decrease in blood flow. Blood contains iron. When there is a decrease in iron blood flow, that causes an infarct. We call that an ischemic infarct. So again, the infarct is hypodense. Fourth one is fat. In fat embolism. But fat seeing in the CT brain is very rare. So forget fat. You forget fat. So you'll have to remember only these three things: water, air, and an infarct. So am I clear what causes hypodensity? Yeah. When this is clear, suppose it's a hyperdense structure. How do you differentiate whether it's calcium or iron, whether it's bone or blood? Both are hyperdense. So when you have such kind of doubt, there is a thing which is a Hounsfield units, HUU units. This can be seen in the CT scan when someone measures it. So you can see bone or calcification as, yeah, what Sandesh has said is also right. When infarct is there surrounded by edema, even it appears hypodense. Both are hypodense only. I will tell you how to differentiate from them. I was trying to make it easy how to remember that infarct is hypodense. But in my next pictures, where you have to differentiate edema from the infarct will come there. So if there is something hyperdense, now we'll have to differentiate whether it's blood or calcification. You see, bone or calcification has Hounsfield of 1000, so it is very, very hyperdense. Whereas blood will have Hounsfield units less than 100. So if you have a doubt whether it's bone or blood, you will measure the Hounsfield units. If the Hounsfield units are less than 10, less than 100, you will think of blood. And if the Hounsfield units are more nearly 1000, then you will think of bone. Similarly, you will have to differentiate air from water. If it is around 0, it is either CSF or water, as near to 0 as possible. And if it is very low, near 1000, then it will be air. Okay, but by seeing with a visual impression, you can, when you compare with the bone, if that structure which I am supposed to identify is similar, if the whiteness of the bone is similar to that structure, you'll think it's a calcification. Similarly, when you look when hypodensity, you will compare with the ventricle. If it is similarly hypodense to the ventricle, you will think it is water and edema. If it is more hypodense than ventricle, you will think it is air. So, label A. Label the structure. So this is hypodensity, and this hypodensity is because of, you have already labeled. It is a ventricle which is containing the CSF. Now label the structure. Now what is this? I will help you. I will change my highlighter ink color. First tell me what is the blue one. What I have pointed out with the blue one. And this blue one, is it hypodense or hyperdense? Blue one is hypodense. And what is the blue one? You can easily identify it. As Dr. Ashwini has said, it is hypodense. And what is that hypodense structure? I request all of you to be quick enough, because this YouTube has inherent latency of 5 seconds. So if you answer it slowly, by the time all of you answer, it will take at least 10 to 15 or 20 seconds, and it appears boring. This is the main clinical portion, and I want you to be as quick as possible and as interested as possible. Now, this red structure is more hyperdense than the ventricle or less hyperdense. So the red one is more hyperdense or less hyperdense. The red structure is more hyperdense or less hypodense. You'll have to compare with the ventricle. So when compared to ventricle, this structure is more hypodense. So what are the more hypodense structures than water? We have only fat and air. Fat in the brain is very rare. So this is air. So what is this? So this is air. So this picture is a pneumocephalus. And why did air come over here? Can you see this? What is this? This is a fracture. This is a fracture. So this patient had a fracture. Yeah. So this patient had a fracture. Through the fracture, air entered into the skull, and this air is compressing the ventricles. So am I clear? So this is a patient who had a RTA, road traffic accidents, and because of the road traffic accident, he has a fracture of the skull, and through the fracture, air has entered into the blood. Can you all identify the small specks of fracture all around? I will show you. I will take a pen. Can you see? There is air over here. There is multiple specks of pneumocephalus. There is air over here. There is air over here. Okay. All these are small specks of air which has entered all through the skull. And because this air is compressing the brain, this is an emergency. We have to immediately remove the air as soon as possible. Fine. So you have identified pneumocephalus. Now see, you will identify this. So the answer was pneumocephalus. Now identify all these structures. This hypodensity all around. Can you see? All this is hypodense. Ventricle contains pure water. Hounsfield units of 0. And now compare this. Yeah, that is corona radiata, but this is abnormal. See, there are so many things of areas of hypodensity. The structure which Dr. Sandesh has seen is corona radiata, accepted. But not ischemia. It may be a result of ischemia, but what is seen is not directly ischemia. Can you identify this finger-like projections? Can you identify this finger-like projections like amoeba? Pseudopods like an amoeba here and there, everywhere. This hypodensity is because of edema. This is water mixed with brain. That is why it is hypodense, but less hypodense compared to ventricle. When you compare the ventricles, ventricles are more hypodense. Ventricles are more hypodense because that is pure water, where this is brain mixed with water. So this will be less hypodense compared to the ventricle. Whereas pneumocephalus is more hypodense compared to the ventricle. And now we have to differentiate whether it's an infarct or a edema. Edema is characteristically has this finger-like projections. These finger-like projections which I'm showing you. These finger-like projections are characteristic of cerebral edema. Even here also you can see. So this is an edema, widespread cerebral edema. Cause I don't know. In this cuts, we can't identify the cause. It may be a result of ischemia, it may be a result of head injury, it may be a result of widespread brain tumor, anything. But that you can find in the next, either an MRI or CT contrast or whatever may be. In this picture, what I can say is there widespread cerebral edema, because that is hypodense and that has a characteristic pseudopod, finger-like projections. So this is cerebral edema. Next, now try to identify this. Does this have finger-like projections? Yes or no? This is an hypodensity. Is this having finger-like projection? No, this doesn't have any finger-like projection. This is well-defined wedge-shaped area. This is something like a wedge. Well-defined wedge-shaped areas which are hypodense without finger-like projection. So can anyone answer what is this? No finger-like projection. So there is no edema in this. This is an infarct, right? What Dr. Ankita has told is the right one. So this is an infarct. So now can you differentiate infarct from the edema? So edema has finger-like projections, whereas infarct doesn't have any finger-like projections. Cerebral infarction, right? So this is a cerebral infarct. Now, what is this white structure? Is this white structure more hyperdense than brain or less hyperdense than brain? So compare with this bone and compare this one. Is it more hyperdense or less hyperdense? This part or this part. Compare it with the bone. This is the bone. Why are you saying air, Dr. Ashwini? Air will be hypodense. This is hyperdense. So air doesn't come into differential diagnosis only. Yeah. No, Dr. Ankit, compare this one. You can see there is some hypodensity within this hyper one. Yeah. So this one is hyperdense, but less hyperdense than the bone. So this is not calcium. So what should be this one? So this is not calcium. This is iron. Calcium is very hyperdense. That has a Hounsfield units of 100. So this hyperdensity is less than the calcium. So this is iron and this is blood. So this is subdural hematoma, as Dr. Sandesh has told. This everyone, is it clear to everyone? Why this is blood? Dr. Madani, can't be infarct because it is hyperdense. Infarct is always hypodense. So is everyone clear this is blood? If anyone has any doubts, let me know. Is it clear for everyone? Fine. Again, so this is acute subdural bleed. So what is this? Again, try to compare with the bone. It is more hyperdense bone than the bone or less hyperdense. So again, what is this? This is bone or blood. We have only two differential diagnoses: bone, blood, or tumor. Hematoma, and Dr. Ankita said this is extradural hematoma. How to differentiate subdural hematoma, extradural hematoma, I will take the class in next one. Chronic subdural hematoma is gray or black depending on the age. If it is around 3 weeks of age, 2 to 3 weeks of age, it is gray in color. More than 3 weeks, between 3 weeks to 3 months, it is gray in color. More than 3 months, it will become black in color. So what is this finally? So what is the red color one? And I will show you something else which you have concentrated or not. Around the blood, there is some hypodensity, blue one. So tell me what is red one, what is blue one? So red one is the intraventricular hemorrhage, intracerebral bleed, okay. And what is the blue one? There is something surrounding the blood. What is that? There is something surrounding blood. What is it? Right, blue is edema. That is the vasogenic edema surrounding the blood. Fine. I think this is the end for this section. So I think I was able to convey you how to identify. Actually, I was trying to answer 5 questions. Yeah. Or as Dr. Ashwini has said, you can find some finger-like projections. Can I show you? See, this is actually not clear, but this is a finger-like projection. This is the finger-like projection. If you can zoom it, you can see all these finger-like projections. Yeah. There's a bleed in the basal ganglia. What I am writing is this is the basal ganglia. This is the bleed in the ventricle. This is actually intracerebral bleed which has ruptured into the ventricle, forming an intraventricular hemorrhage. So actually in this session, we have answered 5 questions. First one, you were able to say which one is right, which one is left one. Second one, you are able to answer whether you are looking at the bone windows or the brain windows. Third one, what you were able to answer was whether it's a fracture or a suture line. Fourth one, you were able to identify hypodense, hyperdense, and isodense structures. And fifth one, you were able to identify some of the basic pathologies. So in this session, my target was for me to make you understand these 5 things. Once you understood these 5 things, in my next session, I will go higher up. We'll make it more complicated. We will try to identify some normal structures in the brain. We will try to identify some pathologies of the brain. And any doubts in this answering these 5 questions? And I know that the number of, because of this lockdown, number of webinars have become excessively more. So so we are taking this only twice in a month. That is alternate Friday where I'm taking it. So next Friday will not have a session. The next alternate Friday will have a session. And any doubts? If you have any doubts, I will wind up this session, and thank you all for attending this session. And whoever has attended this session, try to give a comment below the live session on the YouTube. Try to subscribe to this channel and kindly let your friends know. And all the next sessions will be clinical thing only. I will speak about Parkinson's. I will speak of some cerebral palsy. We'll speak about infarct. We'll speak of head injuries. We'll speak about meningitis and make it more clinical and more practically useful. Thank you all and good night.